Hello, everybody. Today I want to talk about a Vice journalist and their campaign against certain content creators that they deem to be problematic. Now, why I say they deem to be problematic is because the vast majority of people do not, in fact, consider this person problematic. But the specific article that I want to talk about is the one about Kirsche. Now, this person, Anna Valens, we'll be talking about her later. This is a trans woman. This is relevant for context. But as you can see, I have some stuff already open because it's going to be relevant later. Now, I've already scanned through this article, but I want to read it, or at least go through the vast majority of it with you guys. So, why is this GamerSupps VTuber pushing the Great Replacement Theory? Now, for those of you who don't know, the Great Replacement Theory is a belief that there is a concerted effort by some politicians and some powerful groups to replace white people in European countries. This is believed to be happening mostly in the US and the UK, but some people believe it's also happening in Belgium, Germany, and other Nordic countries that have taken in a lot of immigrants from the Middle East and have seen a significant rise in their crime rates, mostly due to culture clash between these two groups of people, namely people from the Middle East, refugees and otherwise, because there's a lot of people who come from the Middle East who are not in fact refugees. They are illegal immigrants. And the native population. Regardless, let's actually read through this article, because I think that it's important to talk about both the topic and accusation, and also the person writing the article, and why this is well, not only is the article extremely maliciously written, but also the person writing it is the exact wrong type of person to be talking about this stuff. So, Kirsche, a relatively popular VTuber, sporting over 56,000 followers on Twitter and at least 44,000 on Twitch, she originally announced her partnership with GamerSupps in September 2023, followed by a merchandise reveal this past March. From shirts to cups, Kirsche fans will soon be able to flag their love for the right-wing Foxgirl IRL, all thanks to GamerSupps. Now, right-wing, nothing wrong with being a right-winger. There's people who are right-wing, there's people who are left-wing, and there's morons on both sides. Regardless, while some VTubers may wink or nod to conservative belief, Kirsche has never hidden her political leanings. In fact, she's gained a reputation for speaking out on behalf of the right-wing side of the VTubing fanbase, as she should. In February, she said trans women advocating for trans rights are autogynephiliac males with graphic murder fantasies. She praised Mythic talent co-owner Asmongold for arguing every trans kid is actually a victim of a parent with a mental illness. GamerGet subreddit Kotaku in Action has shared Kirsche's work to acclaim, calling her based Fox. Another post on r/YouTube drama declared Kirsche the main culprit for alt-right pandering in VTubing. Now, I'll be honest, what does autogynephiliac mean? Coined by Ray Blanchard, refers to a male's sexual arousal or attraction to the thought or image of themselves as a woman. Okay, so not going to talk about this. There's been a lot of anecdotal evidence of trans women where this is in fact the case. For example, Ava Tyson, Mr. Beast's friend, was accused of this by her own sister. And there's been numerous other cases of very, very famous, very well-known trans women who have been accused of this with some credibility. And the graphic murder fantasies is true, at least with regards to the writer of this article, but we'll talk about that later. In casual conversations on her GamerSupps merchandise drop, VTuber fans were quick to describe Kirsche as right-wing. Yes, because there's half the population is right-wing, the other half is left-wing, at least in the US. She's alt-right, anti-woke, and apparently transphobic to a degree. Alt-right, I haven't seen anything to mean this, and anti-woke, yeah, this is as bad as being woke. You're both cringe. Regardless, apparently transphobic to a degree. Few comments mention her calling trans women being mentally ill men. Does she say this towards all trans women, or to specific trans women? That is an important distinction. Regardless. A link to this user's comment has been removed on the poster's request. None of this is my own info, just restating what other people say. Can't confirm nor deny this stuff. Alt-right seems like an accurate description of Kirsche and her politics. In one clip, Kirsche gives weight to the Great Replacement Theory, a racist conspiracy theory suggesting people of color are ethnically cleansing white people through demographic changes and cultural diversity. In the clip, Kirsche argues that a mosque should not be built in northern England, declaring a hostile takeover is happening in the US via illegal immigration, and through the UK via the migrant crisis, nonsense, and refugees. This is not a fringe theory, by the way. There's a lot of people, both in the UK and the US, who feel like this is the case, because they feel like their own communities and their own neighborhoods are being taken over by people of other cultures who have no desire of integrating into their own. I think this is a perfectly fair thing to be upset about, because if I, as a Portuguese white man, were to go to, say, Mexico or the Middle East or any other country that doesn't share a culture with me, and it was me and 1,000 other people like me, and we went there and we started implementing our own culture and refusing to abide by the laws of the place, everybody would think we're assholes. So this is just something that is in fact happening, and all you have to do is look at crime statistics, crime reports, and the testimony of people who actually live there. Our politicians are assisting these people with both demographic replacement as well as just making citizens' lives worse in general. They're changing the entire culture of these countries. Kirsche said, yeah, this was one of the main reasons why Trump was so successful in his campaign, because this was something that a lot of the people to the south of the US were experiencing. Kirsche said, essentially implying both the UK and US are intended for white Europeans and Americans respectively. And now we have the problem here, right? What Miss Anna Valens, what Anna is disregarding here is that she doesn't necessarily talk about whites in regards to America as being the only culture that is supposed to be there. She refers to the active effort from both media and left-wing politicians to significantly reduce the impact of Caucasians, whites, whatever you want to talk about, in history, which is a very real thing. And white Europeans, you mean Europeans. That's all I'm going to say about that. There are Europeans, because the native people of these countries are in fact white. Now, does that mean that there's none of the other stuff? Absolutely not, right? People have been immigrating into Europe for thousands of years. However, there is a difference between somebody who immigrates because they want to integrate into the culture and somebody who comes here because it's better living than wherever they used to live, and so they come here, they bring their own culture, they have no desire to integrate into the country that they're joining into. They just want to come over, establish their own laws, and do whatever the hell they want with no regard to anyone other than their own culture. But let's see Kirsche openly stating her belief that politicians in the US and the UK are assisting in a hostile demographic takeover.
They're building like a 2.5 million pound mosque somewhere in like northern England.
It's a little sketchy here. But let's listen to what she has to say.
They're building like a 2.5 million pound mosque somewhere in like northern England that doesn't even have like a large Muslim population. And I was like, of course they are. Yeah, of course they are. I get increasingly angry when I see people who are just like, well, they're not doing anything illegal, so like you can't really be mad at them. It's like this is very clear.
I mean, in a lot of cases they are. In fact, there are numerous articles that come out every I want to say every week, but it could just be every month. Not that much better. About a lot of rape gangs and all sorts of criminal activity that preys on mostly young women and young boys as well, that are mostly Middle Eastern in ethnicity.
Clearly a hostile takeover. Like, we're experiencing it in the US via illegal immigration. They're experiencing it in the UK via, like, the migrant crisis nonsense and refugees, which, potato, basically the same fucking thing. And it's like, our politicians...
It's not the same thing. There's a lot of different, there's a lot of different things happening. There's a lot of different pressures. The main issue with the US is the drug business and the human trafficking issue. Whereas with Europe, it's an actual cultural shift that that is, you know, not good for European culture. Cultures, plural.
Are assisting these people with both demographic replacement as well as just making citizens' lives worse in general. They're changing the entire culture of these countries. It might not be a hostile takeover like you see in war. There's no guns and battleships and bombs, but it is still a hostile takeover. It is still going to change these countries irreparably in the future. UK, it's almost all of Europe. I'm specifically speaking of the UK.
Yeah, that's not true either. It's not almost all of Europe. France was having some major issues with this. It was basically a breeding ground for a lot of Middle Eastern terror groups. There was a lot of immigration problems in Italy as well, and then they got a quote-unquote alt-right, which was literally just a center-right prime minister, and a lot of that was settled because basically they just allowed the mayors to handle the crimes that were being committed, and the problem was sorted out. Right now, the problems that I hear most about are Germany and Belgium. And Sweden as well.
Okay, because
Sweden
of
is
the
still having
thing.
problems.
We're noticing. And it's like, I made a tweet. I made a tweet talking about,
Okay. Now, Kirsche said something around here that I wanted to talk about.
They're changing the entire culture of these countries.
They're changing the culture of the countries. Now, throughout here, Anna Valens shows a lot of anti-white sentiment. For example, transforming this statement into this, implying that the UK and US are intended for white Europeans and Americans. No. It's stating, not implying, that the UK and US are intended for the British, you know, people from the UK, and Americans, people from the US. That's who these countries are for. That's who these countries were built by. That's who these countries are meant for culturally. Regardless, let's just keep going. Not a one-off comment. In April, she retweeted the White House's ICE tip line to aid the deportation of undocumented Americans. Okay. Important of note here, the term undocumented Americans actually translates to illegal immigrants. Now, are there a lot of people who live for 10 plus years in the US, they don't commit any crimes, they don't do anything wrong, but they are undocumented and therefore illegally in the country? Yes. Is this a problem? Absolutely. Absolutely, this is a problem. And it should be made easier for them to become legalized citizens. It should be made easier. It's like, okay, not if they snuck into the country. If they snuck into the country, you've committed a crime. You should be sent back and get into the country legally. But if you get in with a green card or some other legal means and then that runs out and then you never get it fixed, yeah, that should be made a lot easier. Because, you know, you're a legal citizen. Well, not a citizen. You're legally in the country and then suddenly you're not, and that becomes a problem. That being said, a lot of the people being deported, and in fact the vast majority of the people being deported currently are violent criminals. And if you are in favor of the violent criminals, I don't really care what your side is politically, you're just wrong. Let's continue. In February 2025, she said she was happy with the mass deportations. Yes, because the people being deported are violent criminals, murderers, and drug dealers. Under Trump, also, you know, yeah, rapists, straight up. Like, yeah, a lot of the people have committed one of these 3 crimes. And by a lot, I mean like 90+%. But let's continue. Massive amount of free shit given on the taxpayer dime. Yes, because this was just a lot of stuff that was passed before Trump. But he's doing some good things. He's doing some other things that I disagree with. Like, a lot of the tariffs were not the best. But, hey, it's working out the way he wanted, so I guess he was right about that. Whatever. Even called Lawrence, Massachusetts a no-go zone full of illegal activity. Lawrence, Massachusetts. Let's look that up. Has a higher crime rate than the state average, with a focus on violent crime, particularly among young people. The city's crime rate is 1256 per 100,000 people, meaning you have a 1 in 80 chance of being a victim of a crime, while property crime is lower than the average. Violent crime is significantly higher, with a rate of 448 per 100,000, giving you a 1 in 223 chance of being the victim of a violent crime. Okay, so yes, she is right about there being a lot more illegal activity there than in other places. So, again, Kirsche is just correct here. If I sweeps here, it'll become a ghost town, and maybe we can be rebuilt, she tweeted. Maybe, right? Like, I don't know how much of the crime activity is being committed by illegal immigrants. It was Kirsche's tweet in mid-April that drew her Gamer Subs partnership back into the public spotlight. On April 14th, Kirsche responded to an online rumor about Carmelo Anthony, a black teen charged with killing a white 17-year-old named Austin Metcalf. A post incorrectly claimed that Anthony's family had purchased the house. Yeah, this was something that I do think that a lot of people were talking about. You know, claiming that they were using the money from the GoFundMe, and they bought the house with that. Turns out they didn't even have access to the money yet, so very, very shitty of people to talk about that in that regard. However, it is still very shitty that somebody will commit murder, like Carmelo Anthony did. Carmelo Anthony committed murder. He murdered a boy in cold blood. Brought a weapon. You know, doesn't matter if it was a knife or not, but in this case it was a knife. Brought a weapon to a place that he shouldn't have brought a weapon to, and then he murdered somebody after instigating a confrontation. Which, yes, Carmelo Anthony did instigate the confrontation, which is why it's not self-defense, and it's murder. By every law book, wherever you want to go. What Carmelo Anthony did was cold-blooded murder. And right now, his legal fund is over $500,000, right? So they've raised over $500,000. And if we look at the donations, a lot of them are anonymous, which, let me see if I can find any non-anonymous ones. Well, I guess not. They're all anonymous. Regardless, it is extremely problematic that you'll commit murder cold-blooded, but because it's a black kid on a white kid, you get a payday. You get $500,000. So while, yes, they didn't use it to buy a house, they still got $500,000, and that's a problem. The next day, Kirsche responded to a post claiming body cameras killed the BLM movement, which is just outright true. In a quote retweet, she shared body cam stills from police altercation with Deshaun Leith and Sidney Wilson, 2 black Americans who were shot and killed in self-defense. They forgot to write that in. And killed by American police officers. With one image, a police officer points a stun gun at Leith while he lunges forward. In another, Wilson holds a knife while the responding officer points guns at him. The still has taken seconds before he discharged his weapon. Who wore it better? Body cam edition. Poor taste, still true. In both instances, body cam video depicts law enforcement acting in self-defense. However, the implication of Kirsche's response is that black Americans are lying about the commonality of police brutality in the United States, which is true if you look at statistics. The Sentencing Project notes black Americans were 2.5 times as likely to be shot and killed by police officer as whites, which is untrue. At this rate, police will kill an estimate one, and we could just look it up, right? Black people versus... Yeah. Let's see here. So, we see here that there is a noticeable gap between whites and blacks in terms of shooting, and due to other statistics, violent crime statistics by race USA. We're just gonna, because this is being done by race, so let's do it by race, right? This is crime in the United States as of 2019. So we will go to 2019. So we see here almost double the amount of white people were shot as black people. So let's now look at the statistics. So this is based on total arrests. We see here that for murder and non-negligent manslaughter, we have a higher number of blacks than we have whites. Okay. Higher number for rape. There is an extra thing there. Rape figures in this table are aggregate totals of the data submitted based on both the legacy and revised uniform crime. Okay, so whites are significantly higher here in terms of arrests. Robbery, more on the blacks. Aggravated assault, more on the whites. Aggravated assault means that you committed assault while committing another crime. So basically, if you're stealing from somebody and then you hit them, that's aggravated assault. Burglary, larceny, yep, whites overrepresented. Okay, yeah, we see here about, yeah, there's 3 times more. So, as of 2019, the statistics don't actually show that much of a preference for shooting blacks over whites. This is just over 2 times more whites, close to 3 times more, committing the crimes, but still there are more white people being shot by the police than black people. So the idea that there is a significant preference is not true if you actually look at the statistics. Regardless, Kirsche's mid-April posts reached a breaking point for the VTuber community, causing many users on Twitter to criticize GamerSubs for partnering with the creator. One VTuber, Kaio, ended his GamerSubs partnership 2 days after Kirsche's tweet. While Kaio did not name Kirsche directly, he pointed to his concerns with certain creators affiliated with the brand sharing openly bigoted views without facing any consequence. Yes, because their views are not, in fact, openly bigoted. They are just statistically driven, or driven by their own beliefs and experience. And while you can state that Kirsche's views are bigoted, you would then have to state that Miss Anna's views are just as bigoted, if not more. But let us continue, because we're really close to the end of the article. Of course, Kirsche may walk herself into a controversy that's impossible for GamerSubs to defend. This could be the case after the right-wing VTuber retweeted a Kirsche fan named Sencho Mimikyu. Sencho recently received an official Kirsche U2's plushie and posed with it. In one of the images shared by Kirsche, Sencho placed Kirsche's plushie next to an enormous collection of Nazi and fascist books. Yeah. I don't know much of these books. Escape from Detroit, Intolerant Interpretations, Battle for Berlin. Okay, so this symbol I do recognize. That's the Iron Cross. That's the Nazi eagle. Yeah, that's problematic. I think that this is fucking weird. Like, this is just fucking weird, right? Like, you got a bunch of Nazi memorabilia. You're putting my plushie next to it. I don't like that shit. I don't like that shit. This shit's fucking weird. Sencho's Twitter page is filled with anime women promoting Nazi imagery and works. In one tweet, an anime girl with a swastika is shown, along with the message that someone say race war. Yeah, that shit's weird. That shit's fucking weird. This shit is as weird as people supporting BLM in Big 2025, right? BLM has been exposed a million times over for being a very, very toxic movement whose only design is make the people at the top rich. Straight up. Everybody fucking knows this. Anybody denying it is trying to sell you something at this point. Regardless, this Nazi imagery extends to the books seen in the image retweeted by Kirsche. The hardcover book display features 2 books with the Iron Cross and 1 with the Nazi eagle, complete with the swastika. I didn't actually see the swastika. And I don't see the cross here. I see the cross here. I see the eagle here. I'm trying to see the swastika. I don't see the swastika. Is this the swastika? Like, I can't, like... Yeah, I don't see the swastika. Maybe that's where it is. Okay. Maybe, it does say Nazi eagle complete with the swastika, so I'm assuming the swastika is there. But yeah, that shit weird. That shit's fucking weird. I don't think Kirsche should have retweeted this. Yeah, that shit's fucking weird. While Kirsche is a political VTuber, it remains unclear if the content creator was aware of the Nazi imagery seen on the bookshelf. Yeah, absolutely. They could have just retweeted because, oh, hey, this person got it, so retweet. Still, maybe do a little bit more. Because if you're going to be... And here's the reality of the situation, right? If you're going to have right-wing beliefs on the internet, people are going to accuse you of being a Nazi. I wouldn't be surprised if I get accused of being a Nazi and bigoted in the comments section of this video, right? However, if you're going to have these opinions on the internet, it is important to cover yourself. That means you can't be liking Nazi shit, because Nazis are, in fact, bad. No one likes them, all right? Nazis believe in outright white supremacy and anti-Semitism. Like, Nazis outright believe that shit. That's a bad thing. No right-winger believes that shit unless they are a Nazi first. Okay? There's a lot of edgy kids on the internet who will post that stuff, and they'll proudly hold the flag of the swastika and the Iron Cross and the Nazi eagle and whatever, right? And that shit is bad. That's a bad thing. It really is bad. We don't like that. We don't want those people around. We want them back in their caves, hiding from the sun. Okay? You gotta be careful with this shit, Kirsche. Because up until the very end of this article, none of this shit was bad. Because it was literally just Kirsche pointing out the bad, awful things that she is seeing in the world and saying that they are bad and awful. Regardless, Anna Valens. I do want to talk about her because you see how right here at the start of the article, this person said that Kirsche was bad because she accused trans women of advocating for trans rights through graphic murder fantasies. Okay, so that's a problem, right? If it's not true. So this is a tweet by Anna Valens in 2020, which I will now read out. The year is 2028. The United Soviets of America have emerged, run by groups of 12 to 14 trans women who all initiate breeding facilities where we high-five each other while spit roasting cis women. We call it the gender crit wet pussy carousel, now with less respectability policies. Some confused TME, which basically means anyone who isn't a trans woman, is gonna say this tweet is misogynistic, which it is. I can feel it, it's gonna be hilarious. Imagine getting upset because a trans woman made a joke about getting bread, except you're not making a joke about getting bread, you are making a joke about forcibly breeding women. This is a rape joke. You are the same person getting mad at others for off-color humor. Now, I understand that this was 5 years ago. This person has been a journalist for 10 years. So, this person was already online at this point. This person was already making the same points that they are making now 5 years ago. Their position has not changed. So now the question is, why exactly do you feel like this is okay, but having a position that basically says, hey, why are you coming to our home and destroying it and demanding that we respect you, right? So, yeah, already Anna Valens is worse than Kirsche by every metric. Now let's listen to Kirsche actually defending herself from all the accusations that have come out, all this stuff. Let's actually see what Kirsche has to say. This is the one part of this that I have not actually looked at yet. but I want to. I'm an easy target. I'm loud, I'm crass, I'm from Boston, after all, but don't think I was the only target. Before turning their attention my way, Valens, their... I don't care because LGBT people will misgender cis people with they, them all the time, so hey, by their own metric, it's okay. Valens had already written the byline and was just choosing a target to execute it against. Valens' timeline proves days were spent talking about how Rima, Evenstar, whatever, and Ilara VTubers' audience were transphobic, and don't you think it's suspicious that Rima and Ilara always have fans who use the incorrect pronouns for trans VTubers? I mean, not everybody can keep up with that, I'll be honest. Like, sometimes I get it wrong as well. I apologize and I move on. I don't know. I'm not gonna blame the VTubers for fans making mistakes, because most fans of VTubers, most viewers are not terminally online. Not a single thread of evidence was provided that Ilara or Rima enabled this behavior, but that's never stopped a good smear article before. Yes, because that was a smear article. Luckily for Rima and Ilara, and unluckily for myself, I opened my mouth and gave Vice a much better head to try to claim. Vice's managing editor has seemingly now all but called for a new Gamergate-style control and expulsion of the VTuber fandom. Valens is currently publicly adding every journalist they can think of to try and spread the story about their influence. A billion-dollar media organization is sounding the alarm to target a lone content creator because I dare to share opinions or jokes they don't like. I keep to my lane, I don't collab with many other people. I tell people not to bring politics to non-political creators' streams, to not be disruptive to other communities, and ban when necessary. These people will not stop with me. I'm just the first domino they want to tip until they demand more and more. They've already primed another VTuber in their article as a target because of another creator's thumbnail. I'm standing up for myself because I can see what's coming. I don't expect others to come out and publicly support me, but be aware, your Oshi might be next as they keep trying to find more and more things to sanitize. In an interview last night with the channel Nicotine, Valens spent the first 3 minutes of the question talking about gamer subs before even mentioning my name. Feel free to watch this in the first clip below, that's here. At the end of the segment, both Nicotine and Valens referred to the article as the gamer subs article, not the Kirsche article. This can be seen in the second clip below, even though the article was entirely about Kirsche. I fully believe they would have gone after Vialure due to their gamer subs affiliation too. I'm just an easier target. It won't stop with me. I hope the rest of you all are prepared. Now, I'm not going to watch these clips because I generally don't think that they're that interesting. We've already talked about Valens' article. We've already talked about Valens. I'm fairly certain that these videos are not going to be that instructive, so I'm not going to watch them. Regardless, I've been fairly open about my political leanings. I'm mostly right-wing. I would say I'm center-right. I mostly just want to be left alone in my home without feeling endangered because somebody that I don't know and I don't trust is being brought in against my wishes. I think that's something that we all can identify with. You wouldn't let a strange man into your home to live there without at least doing some amount of vetting first. You especially wouldn't do it if he broke in. So I don't see why that rule should be different for a country. I think it's very malicious of a lot of people who are terminally online, and most of these people latch onto the LGBT community as a shield rather than as an ideological belief. And they do so because if you criticize trans people online, and by the way, I say this because it's just outright true, because as you see here in the tweet below, Anna Valens called upon the fact that she is a trans woman to defend what is an indefensible statement. What is an indefensible joke? What is an indefensible rape fantasy? And yet, we're supposed to take these people seriously. We're supposed to take their claims that anyone who doesn't entirely sign up to their beliefs is bad. There's going to be people in the comments of this video, if this gets picked up, that are going to argue that if you believe what Kirsche believes, you're a bigoted Nazi. There's going to be people arguing the exact opposite, saying that absolutely brown people bad, black people this, only white is good. They're both equally retarded. Both of these people are equally retarded, because on one side you have people who think that if you're white, already you have no right to your own place in the world. And if you're not white, you don't have a place in the world. You don't have a right to a place in the world. They're the same people. They are. This is not a discussion. These people are stupid. They are not worth talking to. They are not worth discussing anything with. And I urge everybody here to consider this in the future, right? When you are going to interact with somebody like this, I want you to listen to what they say, realize they're being stupid, and rather than try to argue with them, say it with me now. You look at them dead in the eye, you place a gentle hand on their shoulder, and you say, "Shut the fuck up, retard." I want you to do that from now on. If somebody says some dumb shit that basically is just anti-white rhetoric, or white supremacy, or just racism in general, just tell them to shut the fuck up and call them a retard. Because that's what they are. They're stuck way back when we were still ignorant of other people being real. Okay? Just call them a retard and move on. Anti-white, anti-Semitism, anti-black, anti-Asian, it's all the same. It's all the same brand of moronicism. And we shouldn't be letting these people get away with it. Okay? Let's just call them what they are and move on with our life. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.
Thank you.